The morning sky above Hope burned orange and gold as the twin suns rose over the settlement's eastern mountains. Sarah stood at her kitchen window, watching her daughter Maya run through the wheat fields with the other children from the colony school. The golden stalks reached up to Maya's shoulders now, swaying in the gentle breeze that carried the sweet smell of growing things across the valley. 40,000 humans called this world home. 3 generations had worked to make it so. Sarah's grandmother had been among the first colonists, arriving on a ship packed with seeds and dreams, and the stubborn human belief that any rock could become a garden if you worked hard enough. Now the bare stone had become rolling farmland. The empty valleys held gleaming cities. Children who had never seen Earth ran laughing through fields their great-grandparents had planted. It was humanity's proudest achievement, at the edge of known space. Sarah smiled as Maya waved at her from the field. Her daughter was practicing for the school's Harvest Festival performance next week. All the children were learning traditional songs from Earth, songs about planting and growing and thankful hearts. Maya had been humming the melodies for days. Sarah did not know that in 6 hours, she and her daughter and everyone she loved would be dead. The first warning came at midday. Colony Defense Commander James was eating lunch in his office when his communications panel lit up with urgent signals. Ships had been detected entering the system. Many ships. The identification codes came back as Dominion. Felt ice form in his stomach. They were known throughout the galaxy as conquerors. Their warriors had crushed a dozen species and claimed their worlds. But this system was legally human territory, registered with the Galactic Council and protected by interstellar law. He opened a channel to the approaching fleet. The face that appeared on his screen was not a face at all, not by human standards. It was a mass of compound eyes above clicking mandibles, set in a head covered with hard black chitin. The translator took a moment to process the clicking sounds into human speech. "Human colony," the commander said. "You are in Dominion expansion space. You will evacuate immediately or be removed." Kept his voice steady. "This system is registered human territory under Galactic Council Charter. We have full legal claim. Check your records." "We have checked. Your claim is rejected. You have 1 hour." 1 hour? There are 40,000 people here. We have children, elderly, the sick. Even if we wanted to leave, we would need weeks to evacuate properly. The commander's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Then, you will die properly." The transmission cut off. Moved fast. He sent emergency signals to Earth, to the nearest human military station, to the Galactic Council itself. He activated every alarm in the colony. Within minutes, people were running for the emergency shelters, grabbing children and helping neighbors. But everyone knew the truth even as they ran. The nearest human fleet was days away. Help would not come in time. Sarah grabbed Maya from the school and ran for the shelter beneath the community center. Around her, the streets filled with her friends and neighbors, all moving with the desperate speed of people who knew death was coming. Old Mister from the bakery. The Torres family with their new baby. Teacher, no relation, herding the last of the toward safety. They made it to the shelter. They sealed the doors. They held each other in the darkness and prayed to whatever gods they believed in. Above them the sky burned. They did not simply attack. They erased. Their weapons turned buildings to ash and streets to glass. They targeted the evacuation ships first, shooting them from the sky before they could reach orbit. Families who thought they had escaped died in balls of flame, visible from the ground for just a moment before they disappeared. The shelters held longer than the buildings above them. The people inside could hear the destruction, feel the ground shake, smell smoke seeping through the ventilation systems. Some held their children close and sang to them, trying to block out the sounds of the world ending. Some prayed. Some sat in shocked silence. In the community center shelter, Maya looked up at her mother with wide eyes. "Mama, are we going to be okay?" Sarah wanted to lie. She wanted to promise her daughter that everything would be fine, that help was coming, that they would walk out of this shelter into sunshine and safety. But the ground shook again, closer this time, and she could not make the words come. Instead, she held her daughter and began to hum one of the Harvest Festival songs. After a moment, Maya joined in, her thin voice trembling but determined. Other children picked up the melody. Soon the whole shelter was singing, humans facing death the way humans always had, with songs and togetherness and stubborn defiance. The shelter roof collapsed 20 minutes later. The last transmission from Hope was recorded by an automated system in the ruins of the communications center. It captured 6 seconds of audio before the final bombardment. In those 6 seconds, you could hear children singing. When the human fleet finally arrived 3 days later, they found nothing but ash and silence. They were long gone, having moved on to claim other targets. They left behind 40,000 dead and a world that would take centuries to heal. Ambassador stood before the Galactic Council 1 week after the massacre. The chamber was vast, built to accommodate species of every size and shape. Crystalline floated in anti-gravity fields. Massive hegemony delegates sat in reinforced chairs. Delicate diplomats perched on elevated platforms. And in the center of it all, a human woman with gray in her hair and ice in her eyes. The delegation sat across from her. Their compound eyes revealed nothing. Their mandibles were still. High Arbiter, senior member of the council, pulsed with soft light as he spoke through the universal translator. We have reviewed the evidence. The events at the human colony designated Hope are confirmed. The Dominion destroyed the settlement and killed all 40,000 inhabitants. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. 40,000 was a small number by galactic standards. Wars between the great powers had killed billions. But there was something about the completeness of the destruction, the cold efficiency of it, that disturbed even species who had seen far worse. The claim is as follows, continued. The system in question fell within their designated expansion corridor. Under their interpretation of territorial law, human presence was therefore illegal. They offered evacuation time and were refused. 1 hour, said. Her voice was flat, empty of emotion. They offered 1 hour to evacuate 40,000 people, an hour to save the elderly who could not walk fast enough, an hour to save the sick in hospital beds, an hour to save children. She touched a control on her podium. Holographic images filled the chamber, cities burning, ships exploding in the atmosphere, bodies in the streets, and finally audio, 6 seconds of children singing as death came for them. The chamber fell silent. My brother was on Hope, said. He was a teacher. He taught music to the colony children. That recording you heard, that was his class, his students. They were practicing for the Harvest Festival. She turned to face the delegation directly. The High Commander met her gaze without flinching. He had conquered worlds. He had killed millions. One human woman's grief meant nothing to him. The Council recommends mediation and reparations, said. The standard formula for civilian casualties would calculate the compensation at approximately 300 million galactic credits, plus territorial adjustments and formal apology. Reparations, repeated. It is the established process for resolving such disputes. The will pay, humanity will rebuild, and in time, this matter will be settled. It is how civilized species resolve their differences. You're putting a price on our dead. Ambassador, the Council has handled thousands of similar disputes throughout our history. The system works. They forgave the Morrow Collective after their war. The hegemony forgave the free worlds. The galaxy moves forward because species learn to set aside their grievances and... We don't want your credits. The chamber went still. Every translator hummed softly as species struggled to process what they were hearing. Refusing compensation was virtually unheard of. It was the civilized response. It was how things were done. stepped away from her podium and walked toward the center of the chamber. She moved slowly, deliberately, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. When she reached the middle of the floor, she turned in a slow circle, making eye contact with every delegation present. "Every species in this chamber has forgiven their enemies eventually," she said. "That's what you do, isn't it? You fight, you negotiate, you pay credits, you move on. A century passes and the war becomes history. Another century and it becomes a footnote. Another and it's forgotten entirely. That's civilized. That's practical. That's how the galaxy works." She stopped turning. She faced the humans don't do that. The High Commander's mandibles clicked. "You threaten us, one species against the Dominion." "I'm not threatening you, I'm educating you." His voice remained flat, but something burned behind her eyes. "Do you know how long humans have existed as a species? 300,000 years. Do you know what our oldest stories are about? Revenge, justice, the long memory that outlives generations. We still tell stories about wrongs done to us thousands of years ago. We still teach our children the names of those who hurt us. We still remember." She leaned forward slightly. "The galaxy forgives. Humans don't. We remember. We teach our children to remember, and we never forgive." The High Commander made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. "Emotional words from an emotional species. The Dominion has conquered many worlds. We have faced many threats. We do not fear human memory." Smiled. It was not a warm expression. "You should." She turned and walked back to her podium, back to the human delegation. The council moved on to formal proceedings, legal arguments, territorial claims. The standard process continued. Eventually, as everyone expected, a settlement was reached. The paid compensation. Humanity accepted. The matter was officially closed. But words hung in the air long after she left the chamber. The older species, the ones who had dealt with humans before, exchanged glances. They had seen human persistence before. They had witnessed human stubbornness. But this was something different. This was a promise. And in the decades to come, the galaxy would learn exactly what human promises meant. 20 years passed after the massacre at Hope. The galaxy continued turning. Empires rose and fell. Trade routes shifted. New species joined the Galactic Council. Old conflicts faded into memory. The Dominion prospered. They expanded into 3 new systems, crushing the minor species who lived there. They built new warships and trained new warriors. Their High Commander retired with honors and was replaced by his chosen successor, a younger officer named Han who had proven himself in a dozen campaigns. When the council representatives asked about humanity, they dismissed the question with clicking mandibles. The humans had accepted compensation. The matter was settled. Yes, there had been angry words at the council session years ago, but emotional species always made angry words. It meant nothing. Han had never personally met a human. He knew them only as soft creatures from a small world, prone to sentiment and grand gestures. They had no great fleet. They controlled no vast territory. They were newcomers to the galactic stage, barely worth noticing. He did not notice the human researchers who spent 2 decades studying every aspect of biology. Teams of scientists worked in quiet laboratories, mapping the genome, understanding their physiology, identifying their vulnerabilities. They published no papers. They sought no recognition. They simply worked, patient and thorough, year after year. He did not notice the human economists who spent those same decades mapping every trade route the Dominion used. They tracked every supply chain, every resource dependency, every commercial relationship that kept the economy functioning. They noted which species provided food, which provided raw materials, which provided technology. They built detailed models of how the Dominion would respond to various pressures. He did not notice the human diplomats who spent years building relationships with species that had wronged. They had been Dominion subjects for 3 centuries before winning their independence in a bloody war. They still mourned there, strip-mined by industry and left a dead husk. They had lost colonies. They had lost trade partners. Dozens of species had grievances against the Dominion, old wounds that had never quite healed. The humans listened to their stories. They remembered the names of the dead. They offered sympathy without asking for anything in return. They built friendships that would last generations. All of this happened quietly. The Galactic Council saw nothing unusual. They suspected nothing. Humanity went about its business, rebuilding border colonies, developing new technologies, growing stronger year by year. If they seemed focused on certain areas of research, certain diplomatic relationships, certain economic sectors, no one thought it strange. 20 years was a long time by galactic standards. Most species would have moved on by now. Most species would have forgotten. But humans were not most species. The first sign of trouble came on an agricultural world called Prime. It was a vital planet, one of 12 that produced food for the Dominion's core systems. They did not farm their own food. They considered such work beneath warrior dignity. Instead, they used other species as labor, importing workers from conquered worlds to tend the fields and harvest the crops. One morning, the overseers noticed that the crops looked strange. The leaves had changed color overnight, turning from healthy green to sickly yellow. Within a week, the yellow had spread to every field on the planet. Within a month, the crops were dead. Scientists were brought in to investigate. They found a pathogen, a carefully engineered organism that attacked only food crops. It was remarkably specific. It did not harm the workers. It did not spread to other plants. It did only one thing, and it did that one thing with perfect efficiency. Prime's harvest failed completely that year. 2 months later, the same pathogen appeared on another agricultural world. Then a third. Then a fourth. The scientists worked desperately to find a cure, to develop resistant crops, to understand how the pathogen was spreading. But the organism seemed designed to stay one step ahead of them. Every time they developed a countermeasure, a new variant appeared. Within 5 years, 8 of the Dominion's 12 agricultural worlds were affected. Food production dropped by 60%. Rationing began in the core systems. For the first time in centuries, citizens knew hunger. High Commander Han demanded answers. His scientists could only tell him that the pathogen was artificial, engineered with a sophistication that exceeded capabilities. Someone had created this weapon. Someone had deployed it, but they could not say who. They had many enemies. The list of suspects was long. Then came the trade embargo. It started small. They announced that they would no longer sell certain raw materials to the Dominion. The official reason was a trade dispute, something about tariffs and shipping regulations. They barely noticed. They had other suppliers. But then they made a similar announcement. And one by one, species that had traded with the Dominion for centuries suddenly found reasons to stop. Trade disputes, resource shortages, diplomatic concerns. The excuses were different, but the result was the same. Han studied the pattern and began to see a shape emerging from the chaos. These were not random events. Someone was coordinating this. Someone was talking to the Dominion's trading partners and convincing them to withdraw. He thought of the human ambassador's words 20 years ago. We remember, we never forgive. But surely that was impossible. Humans were a minor species. They had no power to organize something like this. They had no influence over thee or any of the others. Did they? He began to investigate. What he found disturbed him deeply. Human trade ships had been appearing in the region for years, filling gaps in the galactic economy. When they stopped selling to the Dominion, human merchants were ready to supply this other customers. When the human ships took over their routes, the transitions were smooth, almost seamless, as if someone had planned for exactly these circumstances. Human diplomats had spent years building relationships with every species that now participated in the embargo. They had listened to grievances. They had offered friendship. They had reminded old enemies of old wounds. And human researchers had developed the pathogen. Han was certain of it now. Only humans had the motive. Only humans had the patience. Only humans would wait 20 years to begin their revenge. He brought his findings to the Galactic Council. He demanded action against humanity for what he called economic warfare. The new human ambassador was a woman named. She was the daughter of the ambassador who had spoken at the council 20 years before. She had her mother's gray eyes and her mother's cold smile. Economic warfare, she said when Han made his accusations. The Dominion accuses us of economic warfare. You have organized this embargo. You have convinced our trading partners to abandon us. You have spread disease through our agricultural worlds. Those are serious accusations. Do you have proof? Han presented his evidence. The pattern of trade disruptions, the timing of diplomatic relationships, the sophistication of the pathogen. Listened patiently. When he finished, she spread her hands. High Commander, I see coincidence, not conspiracy. Human traders fill gaps in the market because that is what traders do. Human diplomats build relationships because that is what diplomats do. As for the pathogen, I am not a scientist, but I understand it affects only crops. If humans had created such a weapon, surely we would have claimed credit for it. You are lying. I am stating facts, but let me state some other facts. She stood, addressing the full council. 20 years ago, the Dominion destroyed a human colony called Hope. 40,000 humans died. Children died. The council awarded compensation and we accepted. The matter was closed. Then why are you doing this? I have told you, we are doing nothing. Han's mandibles clicked in frustration. They are doing something, they are doing something. Our people are starving. Then perhaps you should ask thee and the why they have chosen to stop trading with you. His voice was calm, almost pleasant. Perhaps they will tell you about the worlds you conquered, the peoples you enslaved, the you destroyed. Perhaps they will explain that they have never forgotten and they have never forgiven and they are tired of pretending that the past does not matter. She sat back down. Humanity has done nothing to the Dominion. We have simply chosen not to help you. If other species have made the same choice, that is their right. If your people are hungry, that is regrettable, but it is not our concern. The council debated for hours. In the end, they could find no law that humanity had broken. Trade was voluntary. Diplomacy was voluntary. If species chose not to do business with the Dominion, they were within their rights. Han left the council chamber knowing that he had lost. Not the argument, but something larger, something he could not quite name. He thought again of those words from 20 years ago. We remember, we never forgive. He was beginning to understand what they meant. The embargo continued. The pathogen continued to spread. And year by year, generation by generation, the Dominion began to crumble. Humans had not fired a single shot. They had not lost a single soldier. They had simply remembered and waited and let time do the rest. 50 years had passed since the burning of Hope. The galaxy had changed. Old empires had fallen. New powers had risen. Species that had been minor players were now major forces. The balance of power shifted like sand in an hourglass, endless and eternal. The Dominion was dying. Not in fire, not in conquest, not in the glorious battle that their warrior culture had always imagined. They were dying slowly, quietly, starving by inches while the galaxy watched and did nothing. The famine had spread from the agricultural worlds to the core systems. Rationing that had once been temporary became permanent. The great cities that had housed billions now housed millions. The warships that had terrorized the sector sat in dockyards, too expensive to fuel, too costly to maintain. Former subject species had risen up, one by one, taking back the worlds they had lost. The Dominion could not stop them. They could barely feed their own people. Military action required resources they no longer had. They remembered when they had been feared. Now they were. In the council chamber, species spoke of the Dominion in the past tense, as if they had already disappeared. Historians were already writing their story, another empire that had risen too fast and fallen too hard. It was the way of things. It had happened before. It would happen again. But the historians knew, even if they did not always write it clearly, that this fall was different. This had not been the natural decline of a tired civilization. This had been deliberate, calculated, patient. This had been human work. The final delegation came to Earth on a gray morning in autumn. Their ship was old, held together with patches and prayers. Their leader was young, a female named Ra who had not been born whence hope burned. She was the third high commander since Han, who had died of starvation along with millions of his people. Ra had grown up hungry. She had watched her siblings die. She had inherited a dying empire and had nothing left to offer except surrender. The United Earth Parliament met in a grand chamber in the rebuilt capital. Representatives from every human nation sat in tiered rows, watching as the delegation entered. The room was silent except for footsteps. Ambassador was old now. Her hair had gone white. Lines marked her face. But her eyes were the same as they had always been, the same as her mother's eyes had been, cold and patient and full of memory. She watched the approach with an expression that revealed nothing. Ra stopped in the center of the chamber. She looked at the humans surrounding her. She looked at the symbols of human history on the walls, the flags and images and artifacts of a species that had crawled out of caves and reached for the stars. She looked at, and then slowly she lowered herself to the ground. Her segmented legs folded beneath her. Her head bowed until it nearly touched the floor. It was the deepest submission gesture in culture, reserved only for absolute defeat. "We surrender," she said through the translator. Her voice was steady, but there was exhaustion beneath the words. "Unconditionally, we accept any terms, any punishment. We ask only that you end this. Our children are dying." The chamber remained silent, did not move for a long moment. She sat in her chair, looking at the bowed leader, and something moved behind her eyes. Not sympathy, not satisfaction, something older and colder. Finally she spoke. "You want forgiveness." Ra's head rose slightly. "Yes, please. We have paid for what was done. We have suffered. We have lost everything. Is it not enough?" "Enough for what?" "Enough for you to stop. Enough for you to let us live. Enough for you to forgive." She walked down from her seat, her footsteps echoing in the silent chamber. She moved slowly, deliberately, an old woman who had waited her entire life for this moment. She stopped in front of Ra. "My mother stood before the Galactic Council 50 years ago," she said. "She told them that humans do not forgive. She told them that we remember. She told them that we teach our children to remember. I know. My grandmother's brother was a teacher on Hope. His name was James. He taught music to the children there. When the ships came, he gathered his students in a shelter and kept them calm by leading them in song. There is a recording of those last moments. 6 seconds of children singing before the roof collapsed." Ra said nothing. "Every human child learns about hope," continued. "They learn the names of the dead. They see the images of the burning cities. They hear that recording, and they are taught to remember what your species did to ours." "We were not," Ra stopped herself. "I was not even born." "I know. You are innocent. Your generation is innocent. Your children, the ones who are dying of hunger, they are innocent too, just as our children were innocent when your ships came." Turned away from Ra. She walked back toward her seat, but she did not sit down. Instead, she turned to face the full parliament, and beyond them, the cameras that were broadcasting this moment to every human world. "Humanity has a choice to make," she said. "They are dying. We could let them die. We could watch their civilization crumble into dust and feel satisfied that justice has been done. Some would say that is exactly what they deserve. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. But that is not what we are going to do. She looked back at Ra. Humanity will provide aid to the people, food, medicine, technology. We will help your species survive. We will help you rebuild. Ra's compound eyes widened. Something that might have been hope flickered across her face. You will forgive us. No. The word was flat and final. We will help you. We will not let your children starve, but we will never forgive you. Not in this generation, not in the next, not in 1,000 generations. Walked back toward Ra, stopping close enough to touch the leader. Do you understand what that means? It means that your descendants will know what your ancestors did. It means that when a child asks why humans look at them with cold eyes, their parents will have to explain about hope. It means that for as long as your species exists, you will carry the weight of this history. Ra was silent for a long moment. That seems harsh. Does it? My mother's brother is still dead. His students are still dead. 40,000 humans are still dead. The harvest festival song they were practicing is still unfinished. Nothing we do to you will change any of that. Then why help us at all? Considered the question. When she spoke, her voice was softer, almost thoughtful. Because we are not like you. We do not destroy because we can. We do not kill because it is convenient. We help because that is what humans do. We remember because that is also what humans do. These are not contradictions. They are who we are. She stepped back. Your species will survive. Your children will live. But they will live in a galaxy that remembers what the Dominion did to hope. They will live knowing that humanity does not forgive. And perhaps, generations from now, that memory will stop someone else from making the same mistake. She turned to address the Parliament one final time. Let the galaxy see this. Let every species watch and understand. You may wrong humanity and survive. You may even prosper again in time, but you will carry the weight of your actions forever. Your great-great will still hear whispers when they enter a room. That is what it means to harm us. That is the price of survival. She sat down. Ra remained kneeling for a long moment. Then slowly she rose. We accept, she said. We have no choice. No, you don't. The proceedings continued. Treaties were signed. Aid was promised. The delegation left Earth with hope and with shame, knowing that they would live but never be whole again. In the years that followed, the galaxy watched as humanity kept its word. Ships carried food to starving worlds. Doctors treated the sick. Engineers helped rebuild infrastructure. It was the largest humanitarian effort in human history, directed at a species that had once tried to destroy them. And it was done without forgiveness, without forgetting, without pretending that the past did not matter. The other species of the galaxy learned from this. They had always known that humans were different. They had seen human persistence, human creativity, human stubbornness. But this was something new. This was a species that could hate and help at the same time, that could remember forever and still choose mercy. The ambassador put it best, speaking to the council years later. We thought we understood humans, she said. We thought they were soft because they valued peace. We thought they were weak because they chose not to conquer. We were wrong. They are not soft. They are patient. They are not weak. They are careful, and they never ever forget. They survived. They rebuilt slowly over generations. They became a minor species, no longer conquerors but traders and craftsmen, finding new ways to exist in a galaxy that no longer feared them. But everywhere they went, they encountered humans. And everywhere they encountered humans, they saw the same thing in human eyes. Not hatred, not cruelty, just memory, cold and patient and eternal. Their children asked why. Their parents told them about hope. And the children understood, as every child came to understand, that some debts cannot be repaid. Some sins cannot be forgiven. Some species remember forever. The galaxy learned this lesson too. Wars still happened, conflicts still erupted, but no one attacked human colonies anymore. No one killed human children. The memory of what had happened to them was enough. It was not a threat. It was simply a fact as constant as the stars. Humans helped. Humans traded. Humans laughed and loved and built wonderful things. And humans remembered. They always remembered. Forever.